is a time of restlessness, of bursting energy and budding powers, and a time to take measure of it all. Under natural impulse to find themselves, the young burn off energy at every opportunity, even in the streets when no better facilities are available. But this sort of activity alone can't meet the demands of youth, as it lacks an element as essential to the growing youngster as healthy exercise itself. It lacks the element of adventure. For the lucky few, an answer has been provided by the National Fitness Council with the wonderful idea of adventure camps. Gathering in Hobart, students joining the Esperance camp head south by road for the lovely Esperance Bay in southern Tasmania. Tasmania has everything to offer the venturesome, from deep caverns to snow-capped mountains, untouched lakes, wild rivers and deserted coasts backed by thousands of square miles of virtually unexplored bush. Esperance Camp is set amongst gums on the rim of the great hardwood forests of Tasmania. Through the trees lies the sea, where it runs into the Esperance River at the head of a deep bay. Dotted with islands and well sheltered, the bay is a perfect base for a camp. Here the youngsters can get a taste for life in the wild and begin to develop characteristics of self-reliance and leadership under the guidance of trained camp officers. Mountain peaks, often snow-capped and majestic, rise sheer above the forest to break the western horizon. Beyond, the trails run through the forests into the untrod bush of the southwest, lonely, vast and uninhabited. Such a land breeds adventure. The first call is to the sea, and it's all hands for a swim in the mirror-like waters of the bay. Cold perhaps, but it is part of the toughening up process. There's a right and a wrong way to do just about everything in the bush. How to hone an axe, how to build a safe fire, how to cook a decent meal. The best place to pick up the know-how is in camp, where mistakes can easily be righted. This hardly looks like a good breakfast on which to start an active day in the open, even if you have the appetite of a horse to help it down. The youngsters are left to experiment for the first meal or two, but they soon pick up the rudiments of camp cooking. Fortunately, there's a right way to cook a camp meal. It's soon learnt, and there's plenty for all. The first need of the young adventurers is to gain confidence in themselves in their new surroundings. And a short obstacle course in which you do the rope work, as well as the climbing, is fun and does wonders to toughen up those soft city muscles. Where there's a river to cross, or just a creek, there's a rope bridge to build. No frills, of course, just footwalk and handrail. Whoops, you need the balanced sense of an opossum to get over without a ducking. It's not all bush workouts. There's a lot of experience to be gained on the water by those who favour canoeing. Before the group can safely tackle a long trip of exploration down one of Tasmania's wild rivers, it's essential to know how to recover from a capsize. Under expert guidance, these two youngsters have become able canoeists and don't mind turning on a display with a deliberate capsize and recovery. Note the right way to climb aboard. It's over the stern. Some choose adventure right on the camp's doorstep. Learning to water ski is terrific fun, but not quite as easy as it looks. Try it for yourself. A few spills and thrills, a few false starts, and suddenly it's there. You've got it. You're up and away. Rather different to the skiing is scuba diving. Instruction begins on dry land, even if you are dressed up in a wetsuit. It's essential to master the use of the diving gear, and the now familiar snorkel is just as vital as the more complex breathing apparatus, the aqualung. It will be some time before this team begins to dive. There's so much to be learned in a short time that even the shade of a tree is a place for group activity. While the enthusiasts brush up on their knots, the camp officers are busy planning the adventures to be tackled by the different groups. For all the group's planning days in the open, the shelter of a well-pitched tent means comfort and rest, instead of misery and the frequent failure of the team to complete its adventure undertaking. Just how far you get usually depends on how well your feet stand up to the rough going, climbing, caveneering or bushwalking, and there are vital things to be learnt before you start out with compass and map as a guide to break a trail through virgin scrub. Now for the best way to pack your gear into your rucksack, and the adventure begins. Before they're swallowed by the bush for several days, this group decides to mark the trail in an appropriate way by nailing a pair of old boots to a tree. The adventure for them is the proof of their self-sufficiency, the fulfillment of a journey relying on the slender resources in their packs and their abilities to overcome all obstacles with only compass and map to guide them, a map to which they will probably add valuable detail. Another group goes underground to explore some of the magnificent caverns in this part of Tasmania. The best lamp is the old miner's lamp, working off acetylene gas generated by water dripped onto carbide. The carbide goes in the lower half of the lamp and the water in the top tank. Clamp the two together, open the airlock, and water drips onto the carbide. In a few seconds, acetylene gas is generated and the lamp is ready for use. It's a fascinating underworld of the grotesque and the beautiful that glows in the rays of the young adventurers' lamps. In places, translucent stalactites hang from the roof like frozen rain, a wonderful scene of mystic splendor to uncover for the first time. These fortunate youngsters have taken a vital step in the process of growing. They have ventured, they have looked into the unknown, and in the process gained an enduring measure of themselves. This, their first adventure cap.